This is the 11.2 mini lesson. So when this photo company prints photo packages, they include several sizes of photos that are all mathematically similar. The largest size is 12 inches by 16 inches. This is read as 12 inches by 16 inches. The first measurement is the width, so I know the 12 is the width, and the second is the height. So it's always width to height. So we want to make sure that we pay attention to that. Width by height. So I'm going to label that on my drawing. So we're going to do just this first little bit together. Determine the other possible photo sizes that are mathematically similar. So I'm going to set up a proportion here for A. So I'm setting up the width, 12 inches, to the height, 16 inches. And remember, they said it's width to height, so this is width. This answer I'm seeking is the height. So width is 2 inches, height is then x, and I'm going to always put my labels on. So I see here I can just divide by 6, and I could take 16, and divide it by 6. So 16 divided by 6, I'm using a calculator, gives me 2.6 repeating, and I need a label, inches. Okay, now this one, I set up the same way. So I have width, remember it's width to height, so it's width is 12 inches, height is 16 inches, using my labels. So it's width, that's the first measurement. I don't know the width, but the height is 8 inches. So I see here 16, I can scale down, divided by 2 is 8. 12 divided by 2, so I get 6 inches. Okay, the aspect ratio is the ratio of width to height. So again, it's always width to height. And what it's used for is to determine screen sizes for movie screens and televisions. Aspect ratios are written as two numbers separated by a colon. So again, width to height. So this is something we have to make sure we know which order. So they're showing me this is the width, this is the height of a screen. So before 1950, the aspect ratio of all motion picture and standard definition TVs was 1.33 to 1. This meant that the screen was 1.33 times as wide as it is tall, remember, width to height. Scale this ratio up using only whole numbers. So they don't want us to have this as a fraction. So what I'm doing is the work actually right here, 1.33 to 1. I prefer to look at these as fractions. So I'm taking this, and I know that that's equivalent to the fraction 1 1/3 to 1. And I know 1 1/3, if I make it improper, is 4/3 to 1. So if I want these two numbers to be whole numbers, I know that if I multiply this by 3, those 3's cancel out. So that's what I'm doing here, 4/3 times 3 over 1. But what I do to the top of a fraction, I need to do to the bottom to keep it equivalent. So this simplifies, and I get 4 on the numerator, and 1 times 3 is 3. So this scale using whole numbers is the same as a 4 to 3 ratio. So after 1950, the movie industry wanted to create a different image than what was seen on television. So it adopted the widescreen ratio of 1.85 to 1, which is called the Academy Flat. And they also adopted a 2.35 to 1, which is called Panavision. We're supposed to explain why these are both called widescreen. So think about that if this was originally what we started with. That would mean for every 1 unit of height, remember these are all width to height. So in all these cases, 1 unit of height, it would be 1.33 of width. Well, then it increased to 1.85 of width. This increased even more. So for 1 unit of height, the width is larger in both the 1.85 and the 2.35, which is why they're considered widescreen. It's wider than what the original one was. High definition televisions, or HD TVs, use an aspect ratio of 1.78 to 1. Remember, this is width again to height. Written as a ratio using whole numbers, the HD TV aspect ratio is 16 to 9. Could also use this. Complete the table to show which similar TV screen sizes are appropriate for showing TV shows and movies in HD. So I could go and use this original width to height, and now they're giving me 8 inches as the width, so that means X inches is the height. Here, I would probably solve using means and extremes. 1 times 8 is 8, divided by the 1.78, and I get about 4.49 inches. Now I could have used this 16 to 9, so I'm going to try that. 16 to 9 equals 8 inches to X inches. Here, it's a little easier to just scale this down and say divide by 2. Divide by 2. 9 divided by 2 is 4.5 inches. So this is a little bit of a rounded number compared to here, but we could use either one of these to figure out these. It's going to be easier probably to use the whole numbers, so this is probably what I would use for the remainder.